What's up, everybody? Thrall's Metal here once again. I'm the Croc Nick, and I have an album review for you, and one that I thought I was going to go over last week, but turns out it didn't come out till this week, but that wasn't the original plan. And yeah, we're going to go over a bunch of stuff in this one. So we are going over the latest offering from Thy Art Is Murder, Godlike. This comes out on the 22nd of September on Human Warfare Records. It's been formed in 2006 in Australia. This is their 6th album overall. Longtime deathcore veterans. I've seen them twice. I only own one of their albums, Holy War, which I thought was pretty decent. And well, let's get into at least a light glazing of the controversy around this one, and believe me, I'm going to go into it after I review the album. So as many of you have probably seen, this is the first album without CJ on it. Technically, I believe he is still on the CD version, so if you have that, those are CJ's vocals. But if you are listening to it digitally, that is a different vocalist. Now, this vocalist is still a mystery. I have heard it is actually the frontman from Molotov Solution. I cannot confirm or deny, but it is a different vocalist, and this comes after CJ kind of getting a surprise exit from the band. He was fired and found out via social media, and that revolves around a tweet and possibly some other stuff. Again, we're gonna go into it a little bit more, but this whole thing is kind of blown up in both the band's face and CJ's face, and yeah, it's going to be an interesting discussion, but we're going to talk about the album first. And well, I mean, overall, it sounds kind of like what you would expect from Thy Art Is Murder. It's heavy, lots of syncopated chugs, intense breakdowns. Vocally, I'm going to be honest, I could not tell the difference between this new vocalist and CJ. The new guy sounds a lot like CJ. I actually even went back and listened to Holy War just to get a good feel for CJ's vocals again, because I don't listen to this band a lot. In fact, actually the albums after Holy War I checked out and I was like, this is kind of just okay. And while I thought CJ was a very entertaining frontman, vocally I was never that impressed by him. In fact, I would just say his vocals are kind of like standard deathcore. In fact, if you can get a guy that comes in, you know, on a whim just to re-record his vocals and still sound just like him, that kind of makes it sound like he's a bit generic. And you know, there's an argument to be made there. But musically, I would definitely admit this band has its chops. They are solid at what they do. The riffs are heavy, lots of syncopated chugs, of course, you know, giant, stupid, heavy fucking breakdowns. But I think this album, I don't know, kind of flows a little bit better than, say, like the last couple. Like, I checked out a bit of Human Target, and I thought it was kind of by the numbers. This album, I think, has a little bit more in the way of dynamics. There's some really cool melodies. The opening track, Destroyer of Dreams, kind of sounds like Broken Cog off of Meshuggah's last album. Like, it really kind of lays on that syncopated stomp, and then, you know, you get the atmospheric melody behind it. It's really fucking close, but it does break into like a really good groove and solid machine gun riffs. And also that could describe a good chunk of this. I mean, you have mellow death riffs that get peppered in. Join Me and Armageddon and Corrosion in particular have some really solid melodies on there. And of course, lots of furious blast beats. Deathcore always excels at being heavy. Like, you know, that's kind of like the baseline is deathcore's ideology generally, I will say, is to be extraordinarily heavy. And maybe nuance is sort of like a secondary thing, but I do think this band got a lot riffier on this one. Now, I do think they're riffy in general, like, you know, it's not just like the basic breakdown after breakdown style that, you know, a lot of deathcore gets kind of trapped in. I do think they take some cues from bands like Whitechapel and Fit for an Autopsy and their willingness to experiment a little bit with atmosphere, maybe adding more lead work or just throwing in more riffs and then kind of just, you know, peppering in the big syncopated, you know, deathcore breakdown as like, you know, one section rather than making it the entire song. And speaking of Fit for an Autopsy, this was mixed, mastered, and produced by Will Putney, and it definitely sounds like a Will Putney album. I'm kind of like on the fence with him. Like, sometimes his mixes sound great and sometimes they sound a little flat. I generally have an issue with the drum sound, and on this one, it still kind of has that Putney drum sound where it feels like very compressed. But in terms of deathcore, I think that kind of works out. And the only thing I would say is like really overproduced on here are probably the vocals. At least that's what stood out to me, because they're like entirely multi-tracked all the time. Like, they're always doubled at least. I think doubled vocals are cool every now and then, but when it's the entire album, that kind of drives me nuts. Like an isolated section where you get like the big, isolated vocal that just yells something before the big breakdown hits and everyone loses their shit. That's cool. That works out. When it's the entire album, it kind of gets to be a little bit monotonous and honestly kind of like dulls the effect of a layered vocal. When it does come down to the breakdowns in here, because this is a deathcore album, if we didn't talk about the breakdowns, I feel like we'd be ignoring like 85% of it. They are good. And I do think that they pepper in enough melody on top of them to make them interesting. Everything Unwanted has some really cool like melodies on top of that before they get to the panning back and forth sort of breakdown trope, which, man, I can admit that's kind of fun. And the song Karis, which I think is a giant standout and one of my favorite tracks in here, has a really cool breakdown where it kind of turns more into like a flat out like kind of hardcore meets death metal, like more along the lines of like Creeping Death and shit like that. And then it kind of shifts into the more standard, chuggy deathcore breakdown that we're kind of all familiar with. But I like that little additional flavor in that breakdown, and overall the song definitely has a little bit more of a death metal vibe to it. Like there's definitely stuff on there that I would compare to bands like Suffocation or Decapitated. The heavy syncopated chugs and the riff work is just a little bit more intricate. Again, it's not like the straightforward kind of rudimentary open chord chugging. I mean, it definitely gets to that. But the fact that there are some cool additional flavors on there really adds to that. That and the massive chorus riff, which just kind of has, a little bit of a Fit for an Autopsy sort of stomp, which, they're pretty fucking good at that. That also repeats on the title track, which I also think is a standout. That opening riff is honestly one of the most standout riffs in the entire album. It is just beefy. It's got an instant hook to it, and there's a really good use of like dissonant melodies to create a bit of atmosphere on there. In fact, Corrosion, I think, stands out for the dissonant melodies alone. There's even a moment where everything kind of drops out, and there's this really cool, like, kind of like fluttering drum pattern, and just, really creepy, ominous guitars behind it. And I think that little quiet, muted moment definitely opens up the song a little bit. But again, I think this band definitely excels at the brutality. Like, I think that's kind of always been their thing. The song Anathema, in particular, I would say is possibly the heaviest track in there, which is definitely saying something because this whole album is pretty fucking heavy. But it's just a flat out heavy, merciless song. I like the slower chugs on top of the blast. That's just kind of a cool thing. You have some more almost slam style breakdowns on it. The vocals get a little bit deeper on there, and the breakdown is got like, again, that big sort of like hardcore sort of like drive to it. But honestly, they're good at that. Like, that's what they do well. It's some of the stuff that is maybe a little bit different for them that it's kind of hit or miss. Nailing the song Everything Unwanted, which unfortunately for me kind of sounded a little bit too much like Lorna Shore. Like, it's a little bit more melodic. It kind of gravitates back and forth between like the melodeath riffs and blasts and then big chuggy breakdowns, and the atmosphere behind the riffs definitely sounds a bit like Lorna Shore, albeit it's not like a stupid fucking symphony or anything like that, but it has sort of that vibe. And then there are some like industrial sort of samples that come in on, songs like Bloodthrone and Bermuda. Where it works, I would say Bloodthrone is a pretty solid song. Actually, kind of reminded me a lot of Fear Factory's Demanufacture. The samples are light. They're just sort of peppered in there, for a little bit of atmosphere to just make the song sound a bit different. But Bermuda kind of felt like squandered potential. It's slow and brooding. It's way more atmospheric. It even opens up with electronic drums. The melodies, I think, are really good on it, but it inevitably just kind of morphs into a slow, kind of chuggy song with real drums again. Like, they drop out the electronic elements, and it just kind of becomes like a stereotypical, just brooding, chuggy song rather than actually exploring, I think, some really cool avenues in terms of melody and atmosphere. And the song kind of just ends on a long fade out, and that closes the album, which I don't think this album closed as strongly as it opened. And there are some songs where I think they're just like a little bit generic, like Less Than Pain. Sure, it's heavy, it's brutal, but it doesn't do anything that any of the other songs don't do maybe a little bit better on here. And while I think that breakdowns aren't necessarily like dry humped to death on here, they are all over, but they're peppered in between like really good riffs and such. There are songs where I think they don't necessarily need like the big stereotypical deathcore breakdown, especially the title track. The title track, I think could just go without the, just giant breakdown. I think it would be perfectly fine without it. The riffs carry it. The anthemic chorus on it, I think, is absolutely crushing, and it's driven by a very powerful riff. The breakdown on there just kind of feels secondary. But overall, honestly, I thought this was pretty decent. I think it flows well. The transitions feel really smooth, and yeah, New Dude sounds like CJ, so honestly, like, you could do a blindfold fucking, listening test or whatever, or just if you hadn't found out about all the shit that went down, you probably would not have recognized the difference unless you really fucking broke it down. So overall, I'm going to give this 3.5 stars. I think this is pretty decent. I'm not the biggest deathcore fan, but I think when it's done right and maybe done a little bit more towards my liking, where it's not just repetitive breakdowns, you actually have clever riffs and melodies and such, it really works well. And I think they did that here pretty well. I do think there are some kind of derivative moments on here where you can kind of just catch them, like maybe worshiping another band, like namely that opening track. It sounds so much like the most recent Meshuggah. It's kind of hard to ignore. And there are definitely moments in here where you just kind of feel them settling into their comfort zone, and it definitely contrasts the stuff that is maybe a little bit more experimental or just a little bit, more urgent. You can kind of tell where maybe they were feeling it a little bit more than they were on a different song, but, that's just me. I think this album kind of walks a line between trying to be more dynamic, expanding their sound, and then also kind of playing it safe because they know their fan base. And I get that. Over the course of their albums, they've made some slight changes here and there, but they've always been very subtle. They have a bass sound, and they execute it pretty well. So pretty much, if you're a longtime Thy Art Is Murder fan, I think you'll probably like this. I mean, also definitely for fans of Whitechapel, Fit for an Autopsy. In terms of the vocals, I honestly could not really tell the difference. If I hadn't known about all this, I just would have assumed it was CJ. So, I mean, if that's like a big thing keeping you from checking this album out, believe me, it is like the most minor of details in the overall sound of this album. All right, now time for the controversy. Now, full disclaimer, I'm only going by what we know in terms of what has been released about this. I am 100% sure that there's probably going to be more released about this over the next few weeks, months, etc. I don't think the fires of this have died down one bit. And I'm sure this whole part of the video is going to be like navigating a minefield with the fans, but here we go. So, CJ was dismissed overnight, found out via social media due to the band's post. Now, one of the catalysts to CJ's dismissal had a lot to do with a video that he reposted by one Matt Walsh, or at least one that Matt Walsh was putting out there. For those that don't know, Matt Walsh is a giant piece of shit Christian nationalist, right-wing podcast, provocateur. Like, this dude just generally shits on everything, and I think he even describes himself as a theological fascist, which I'm against both of those. Yeah, I don't like him at all. I think he probably thinks that the clitoris is a liberal conspiracy. Like, that sort of fucking energy, like, just absolute garbage. Anyway, CJ reposted a video of like an excerpt of an interview or something to that effect, where a woman was asking their child, and I don't know how old this child was, but it seems as though this child was like closer to a toddler. But anyway, the mother of this child purportedly asked this child, "Are you a girl or a boy?" And the kid said both. And CJ, in his infinite wisdom, posted the comment, "She should be burned to death." Yeah, not fucking smart, and, we'll get into that in terms of his apology for it later. But the comment itself, I believe, was on Twitter, and it was flagged, and the band found out about it, and that was sort of the catalyst to its dismissal, because they told him you have to do an apology video, and I guess that really wasn't what he wanted to do, because he didn't see at least anything he did wrong in terms of his intent, maybe his execution. Again, we'll get into that. But yeah, a few days ago, he woke up to a band statement saying that CJ is no longer in the band. He found out via social media, which I don't think was probably the way to find out. In fact, I would say they should have really confronted him, done it person to person. But again, I don't know all of the details. There's probably some other factors in there as to why they did it this way. It could be label pressure. While Human Warfare is their label, they do go through Nuclear Blast, which is a giant distributor, and they probably don't want to rock the boat there, so I get that. That could be a factor. I don't know. Kind of just speculating there. But when it came down to the band's post as to CJ's dismissal, They pretty much said, quote unquote, it's not the cause of this action, but just another symptom of the drawn out breakdown of his character and judgment. So I think maybe that there's probably a lot more to this and that will be revealed later, but they're not going in depth on that as, to the rest of the band, because they are going to go on tour with Whitechapel and Fit for an Autopsy in Europe. So they want to focus on that and probably the reveal of their new singer at that point, or at least for this tour. Now, not long after that, CJ made a post of his own, videos explaining why he did what he did, his dismissal, etc. And he does make some points. I will, make a caveat there. A lot of it, he said, was about the age of the child, where if you asked a child of this, age what they wanted to be, they're going to give just kind of a non-thought out answer because it's a child. And, I totally get that. Like, if you ask a kid what they want to be when they grow up when they're 5, they're going to say an astronaut, fireman. But as a kid, they don't necessarily know the job. They know that they've seen these people in a greater light and, they look like heroes and they look up to them. It's childlike adoration, and I get that. There's also a kind of apology to the LGBTQ plus community, which, I don't know, kind of feels half-hearted. He says a lot of this is about children and protecting them, and he will always stand out for them. And well, the first thing I thought of was a comment like this, that he posted, and since it's been deleted, does not protect children. That's just rage. And honestly, the stuff that he was basing it on, where, at least in his mind, there's this generalized thought that, trans people, gay people are trying to convert their children to make them like them right away, is just a gross generalization and a mischaracterization of just, that community in general. And the fact that it came from a Matt Walsh post, which, again, that dude's a giant piece of shit and probably should not talk about indoctrinating anyone, since his whole cult is based on indoctrination. And you can actually demonstrate that and just kind of look at, a lot of very conservative fundamentalist Christians here, at least in this country. I imagine they probably have them in Australia too. But yeah, it's no secret that they see that entire community, the LGBTQ community, as lesser than people. They've demonized that throughout history. Unfortunately, that's just sort of a hallmark of, Christianity in general. That's just a shitty thing they do, and yet another reason why I don't fucking follow that shit. He even makes the point that he's there to defend trans children too, which, again, I find odd. If you're, again, posting stuff from a guy that doesn't give a shit about trans children or trans adults or trans anything, and even seems against the existence of trans children, or even argues that they don't exist, you're this or that. I don't know, man. This was just a giant fuck up, and at least CJ did admit that maybe his comment was fucking really just ill-conceived and he shouldn't have done it. But again, he kind of stands by at least this weird ethos that definitely has some holes in it. But because of all this, this has turned into, once again, a free speech argument and such, and I'm all for free speech. You should be able to say whatever the hell you want. That does not, however, make you immune to consequences in terms of saying, controversial things. Just because you can say something does not mean you can say it with impunity. People are going to come back at you and, maybe debate the subject civilly. That has happened. Or they'll just flat out come after you and just shit all over you. The second you start crying victim when people do that, you've completely lost me. That is just flat out fucking weakness. Own what you say. Character fucking matters. That has always been something I've stood by. If you are going to have some hard fucking controversial takes on subjects that are definitely divisive in society as a whole, then you better have the thick skin to fucking take the brunt of abuse that you will catch. And for the record, I've always hated the term cancel culture because I think it's absolute horseshit. I think it's consequence culture. That's what it is. You fuck up, you do something stupid, there should be repercussions. That's just how it fucking works. So overall, how this was handled, I don't necessarily think it was handled in the best way. But again, I don't know all the details. I don't think many people do yet. And again, we will probably slowly find out. But from a business standpoint, because a band is also a brand to a degree too, you were probably going to have to fucking address this in some form, whether kicking out CJ or not was the answer. That is exactly what happened. Again, we will definitely find out more as this goes on, but yeah, those are just my thoughts on it, just my opinion. I mean, I'm sure CJ definitely has his fans that are standing up for him and saying, you know, they fucked you over. And I'm sure the band also has its fans that are rallying behind them saying, no, you did the right thing by getting rid of this toxic element. So, yeah, we will see what happens in the future. We will see what else gets revealed because, again, this shit ain't done. So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below to thrallsofmetal.com. Our Patreon link is there. It's also on our channel, but our store is also on thrallsofmetal.com. We have shirts, we have hats, we have discounted shirts now. So if you are looking for any of our merch, that is exactly where to find it. Again, here back in Toledo at Frankie's Inner City, which is, again, a club that we've adored over the years. It's now reopened and booking metal shows. We have Revocation, Unearth, Entheos, and High Command playing October 1st. We are really looking forward to that one, not only because it's at Frankie's, but that's a pretty fucking stacked lineup. If you live in the area, we strongly recommend you come out, show the support. There will be more metal shows playing at this venue for sure in the future, but let's kick this one off with like some fucking gusto. And of course, thank you guys so much for every bit of support you guys give us. It is, again, amazing doing this, watching the channel grow. A lot of cool stuff in the future. Hell, we got Ren back. That is cause to fucking celebrate. And I don't know in terms of what capacity he's going to come back, like whether it's going to be like a more often thing or just a sporadic thing, but the fact that he came back and you guys showed him so much love in that Cannibal Corpse review. I fucking absolutely love seeing that outpouring of just support for him. That was amazing. That was actually the bulk of the comments too, which fantastic. Thank you guys so much for that. But yeah, we have a lot of stuff planned for the future. I definitely have more videos to shoot, maybe not today, but probably tomorrow. So yeah, stay tuned for a ton of content. And of course, one more time, you guys rule and we will catch you later.